All right, Manek. Well, welcome here. Haven't seen you in a long time now, and you've been in the midst of the lockdown. So, just tell me what you've been up to.
For sure, man. First, thanks for having me. It's good to see your face amongst all this craziness. Um, I've been shuttling between my apartment in Brooklyn and my sister's house in Durham, North Carolina. The first 6 weeks of quarantine, uh, I spent here, and then I went back about 2 weeks ago just to check on the place and really get another bag of clothes because I came down here and it was winterish and and now it's summer, so I had to put away the sweatpants and get shorts and things like that. So it was nice to get back home for a bit. But now I'm back down here for another couple of days, and we'll see when I shoot back up.
Right. So, Manek, there's a lot for me to talk with you about. You know, you came from a young age over here, went to school at
Yep.
Trinity, then you went to a position in New York, and now you're the top doubles player in the world, and you're a DJ and a producer. So we'll get to that part last, and that'll be one of my favorite parts. But talk to me about when you were young back in Mumbai. You know, who were your influences, and who kind of guided you towards America?
Look, so when I was really young, I basically played every single sport at our club. And when I was about 9.5, 10, there was a PSA event there. And, you know, you had guys like Chalner, Simon Park, Peter Nicol, Jonathan Power, like those guys come and play a professional tournament on our main lawn. Like, just picture a cricket ground, and in the center of the cricket ground they had a squash court. So it kind of it gravitated me towards the sport, and I carried the guys' bags around for the entire week, and it was such an inspiring experience to be so close to the sport without really playing it. And I fell in love with it. And fast forward a bunch of years later, and I'm on the doubles tour, and I'm playing with guys like Mark Challoner and things like that, Chris Walker, and it was just for me, that entire experience was just coming a full circle. And it's very rare you get to look up to guys and then get to compete and then actually call them good friends, so
Yeah.
In a nutshell, that was kind of my experience. But when I started playing squash, I didn't really want to come to America. That was not the end goal. I wanted to play on the singles tour and things like that. And when I was growing up, the mentality was still, you play junior squash and then you go on to the PSA and you don't really go to college. But then as I got older, a lot of my friends came to college in America. My sister was already here. She went to Denison and swam for Denison. And, it kind of educated me on what the student athlete life was all about. And I had a lot of friends at Trinity who were Indian, and a couple of foreign friends as well. So, I got to a point when I was 16. I was living in Chingford, training with Neil, and living in Ritwik Bhattacharya's apartment, and I was all alone. And you know how it is, right? Like when you make that switch from being a junior to a young kid trying to make it on the PSA, in an instant it gets very, very lonely. And that for me was the biggest takeaway. Like my best friends are still the guys I played junior squash with, and then all of a sudden I went to this really cool experience and working with Neil and all this stuff, but it was just very isolated. And that kind of made me realize that was the main reason I didn't pursue a singles career. And at the end of the day too, I was a good junior, but I don't think I would have had a sustainable career as a singles player on in the top 20 or so rankings and things like that, right? I think it's very hard to have a sustainable, lucrative career in playing squash singles unless you're within a certain ranking range and have good endorsements and things like that. But yeah, I mean, a couple of those things, but I think the main reason was just, I didn't enjoy the lifestyle for me
Yeah,
personally.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so you came to Trinity. You won 4 titles with the Bantams. I believe one of the juniors I was teaching at the time, Ian McGregor, was on your team. Is that right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was coaching it. Yes. Anyway, so then you went on and you got a position in New York, and you were an assistant first, if that's right, at the R&T.
No, so I played at Trinity, greatest squash experience of my life. And I worked for Robin Norell Krizak at the Field Club in Greenwich. And then I moved to Appomattox and worked for Briggsy for a bunch of years. Then I started working for Mark Hayden at Harrow, which was another great experience. I learned a ton from Mark, not so much Dave, but you know how it is. And then I was lucky enough to get the opportunity to run the squash program at the Racket and Tennis in New York, where I am now.
Yeah, where you're on now. Now, was your first introduction to doubles through Briggsy?
No, my first was with Narelle and Rob and Mark Price. They were the ones that got me out there. I think it was a Tuesday a.m. game, standing game at like 10 a.m. And I literally went from having no idea what I was doing to loving the game and really learning a ton from Rob, Mark, and Narelle.
Yeah. I mean, that first transition, I remember when I first played doubles, I had the pleasure of playing Gary Waite and Mark Talbot in my first ever doubles match. Now, let me tell you, that was something I'll never forget. that was back in the 90s, and it was a good introduction.
Yeah.
And I thought, no, don't like this
sure.
game. But then, I now live in Chicago, and I absolutely love doubles. Love teaching doubles. Love and give doubles lessons.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite to do. So you then went to the R&T, and you got on the tour. And who was your first partner?
So I started with Rob Dinnerman. Then I moved to Sean Johnstone, and then I started playing with Ivan Badam.
Yeah.
And then I started playing with Damien Mudge, and then now I'm currently playing with Chris Callis.
She had a great season last year, but prior to that season, you came back from a pretty bad injury. Tell us about that and how you got through the rehab. You know, it was very similar to Amanda Sobies, I know that. So
yeah. Look, I mean, it is and it was a very life-altering injury. I think you just look at things in a much bigger perspective. And then the entire process of it was challenging for sure, but definitely way more mentally challenging than anything else. I was lucky to have Amanda and Susie and a couple of the friends that have gone through it, who kind of were always there for me, and a good stable person to go to for advice and things. But for me, I went into it with the mindset of finding the wins. Like every day I would search for that positive win. That would be like getting to move my toes a little more, or be able to stand on my 2 feet. You know, just simple things. Instead of, there's so much negativity with an injury like that if you harp on it, I think you can just go down a little bit of a rabbit hole. So I would consciously make an effort to pinpoint what was good, what had improved, what was improving, and go from there. But no, definitely, I think my entire approach to training and to squash has been very different since. I always thought I was in decent shape, but there's a lot of issues with the chain that I wasn't focused on, and I learned a ton from it. Like, you learned how to actually put myself through a session in the gym and focus on each and every muscle and target it specifically. I had a great team of physical therapists at Spear Physical Therapy in New York, and then I moved on to fitness training at Body Space Fitness in New York City. And like between the people around me, I learned a ton, and I think my entire approach to both the on-court and off-court aspect of things has changed dramatically.
Good. So what would you say is your sweetest win so far on the doubles tour? Most memorable?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's a tough question to just pick one, but I think a couple of standouts would be the Briggs Cup, I think in, what was it, 2011 or so, which I won with Swiss. I was working at Aquamis, beat Damien and Ben Gould in the semis, and then beat Matt Jensen and Clive in the finals. Probably at that point in time, we had lost to them a lot, and it was, a home club. Both of us were working there. All the kids we were teaching in the galleries, and it was very fulfilling win. And then I think I had a undefeated season with Damien, and where we won the Kellner. And at that, again, I was playing in front of the home club at the Racket and Tennis Club, which was very special in itself. And then most recently, probably the Maryland Club with Chris, which was my first tournament back after rupturing my Achilles. And, when we started off the tournament, both of us were like, yeah, we just don't know what to expect, because he was coming back from a little bit of a knee injury, and I was obviously coming back from my Achilles, and we had a really tight first round, and then the second round was tight again, and we weren't feeling great, but we were just going through the motions and trying to find some form through the weekend. And by the time we got to the final, we found some rhythm and won. And for me, that again was just a full circle. A lot of emotional baggage, a lot of physical stress and mental stress through the injury, and obviously being able to get back on court with Chris, who we had only played, that was our third tournament together. So that was special as well. Just if I had to give you a couple.
Yeah, you did. You gave me plenty. Let's talk about one of your favorite and passionate things to do, and that is your music. I mean, I've listened to a lot of your tracks recently, and I still think "Girl" is my favorite one.
Okay.
Yeah, I just like the rhythm, I like the vocal. It's all good. But what made you? I know you used to do some DJing at college, and I know you've DJed a lot of the big clubs in New York now. What drives you to do that music? What's that passion that you have?
So growing up, my dad was always into music. My uncle was a professional Western classical pianist, so I was always surrounded by it. And from a young age, I just gravitated towards electronic music. I found like the energy and the vibe, and just like the uplifting elements of that kind of music would transform my mind and transform my mood, and it would just put me in a very good space. So I listened to a lot of it. I started listening to a lot of trance, and then I got into house music, and I've just been listening to house music for years and years. I would open two music players on the computer and basically try and sync them up, and I did a lot of random things like that as a kid. And then I remember when I was in 12th grade, I got my first set of decks, and I started playing the school parties in high school, which was a blast. And then in college, I played a bunch of parties. But I think the music has always been a mood uplifter for me. And then through sport, it's always been something that's gotten me through tough times and tough sessions and workouts and pre-match routines. And it's just always been a part of my life, which has been used to put me in a headspace or a mind space in whatever direction I wanted to go in. So I still have certain tracks that I I've been listening to for 20 years when I need to get into a particular mindset and level of confidence or level of preparedness. It's that's just what it is for me. And then when I was working at the field club, like right when I finished college, I kind of would I was DJing a lot in New York and playing a lot of the clubs, and I got into production at that point, where I was like, okay, like I have a good understanding on how to DJ. I kind of want to learn how it's made now, so I enjoy the sauce now. I want to learn how to make the sauce, right? So I started immersing myself in YouTube videos, and I took a bunch of classes, and here we are 10 years later, where I put out maybe 3 to 6 tracks a year on different labels around the world. And it's just I don't DJ as much anymore, so now my passion of listening to music has become more of like making music. So now when I listen to something, I'll try and be like, okay, how do I emulate this sound? How did they create it? What do you think they did to make it so special? And that's kind of what I do with the music stuff now. It's just very fun for me to pass my time making music now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm similar to you. I like to wake up about 5 in the morning and go through what's the new stuff coming out, or go on SoundCloud, look all the new remixes. I mean, I enjoyed your Selena Gomez remix. Listen to that this morning.
Thank you.
I used that in one of my classes too. Yeah, it was good.
Nice.
And so, where do you see yourself going on the tour? Obviously, number one, you're probably going to dominate for a long time. But where do you see yourself going after squash? Into music more?
Well, I think for me, the music will, where it's at this point, I think it'll just be something I do. I don't do it with the goal of making it my career. I do it because I enjoy it and it's a hobby. There was a phase in my life where I was like, yeah, I want to make this my career, but then it became like this type A sort of pressure where I stopped enjoying it as much, because I think it was hard. Like, I think it's hard to put myself in that sort of situation where I'm making tunes and it's not quite where I want it to be, and it was a hard space, and I stopped enjoying it. So I've taken the pressure off there completely, and now I just love making it for me and for whoever else enjoys it.
Yeah.
That's that chapter. I think, again, the squash, I think I'm 32. I've got a bunch of years left on the tour. Again, it's the good thing about the doubles tour. It's, you have your goals and you set your goals, but at the same time, it's a secondary weekend sort of passion and a secondary job, essentially. So there's a little bit less pressure in comparison to someone who's doing it full time. And that's, again, for me at 32, that's exactly how I like it. I work hard to be able to perform at the highest level, but at the same time, my priorities are at the racket club, and I see that. I like the little bubble that I'm in, so I'm gonna try and keep it that way for a little while. Focus at the club, continue to play doubles and perform at the highest level and to my highest capabilities, and when I get some time, continue to put tunes out that you can play in your classes.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so once we get back on the tour, I think we're going to have you and the tour here in Chicago. It's been quite a few years since you've been here playing an event. I mean, I think the last one was the World Doubles in 2015, which was a great success.
Yeah.
Raised a lot of money for Metro Squash that year. So, we definitely need to get you back.
Yeah, I'd love to. I've not played there yet. I mean, I didn't play that World Doubles that year. I did a little exhibition at the racket club bunch of years ago, but I've never played a pro tournament there, and I love Chicago. I can't wait to come back.
The place of house there in Detroit, so you got to come back.
No, I gotta come back. Yeah, it'll be fun.
All right, so wrap this up. Wishing you all the best going forward. Hopefully you get back and settled in New York when that reopens, which we don't know when that will be. But definitely get you over here to Chicago and keep those chins alive, because I like them.
Thanks, bro. Thanks for having me. Stay safe,
no
and we'll chat soon.
All right, sounds good. Cheers.
Cheers, brother.